Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Frank Fear. This is Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now, and there's my partner, Mickey Plumley, right next to me. And you and I and Greg talked about this over the phone. What's the best way to frame this about WVU football? It's been tough, obviously, since Coach Brown left, because you knew, based on experience, not just at WVU, that when there's a transition like this, particularly when a coach is brought in as late as Coach Rodriguez was, when recruiting had already clearly been in gear for other clubs, it was going to be a work in progress. And so you knew there'd be a whole cast of characters. And then it was pretty clear to us that the group that was brought in last year, not a lot of them would continue into year two. And that has happened. And so what we have now, though, is the beginning, really for the first time since, what would that be, the 24, December 24, where we're beginning to see some stability. WVU had a great recruiting season for the freshmen, and also a great portal recruiting season. And you know, Mick, I was looking at this the other day. Tonight should be, or would have been, our busiest night in terms of reviewing the roster, because in the old days, was just a few years ago, the first Wednesday of February was the signing day.
Yep.
And it's a nothing burger now, because your comments here, you got to get those kids in the December signing. You can't wait until the February signing. So it pales in comparison.
Well, and the good news, I think there, Frank, is, Rich Rod was able to get a much earlier start this year than it was last year. And one of the points that I made a couple of shows ago that I think the average viewer or the average fan may not have an appreciation for is how important it is to get these kids in, particularly the early signers out of high school and the transfer portal transferees, to get them in for the winter workout program, to get them in for the winter weightlifting program. And weren't able to do that last year, which I think disrupts the continuity. I'm sure Mike can speak to this some when he gets on there too, but those winter programs are extremely important to building not only strength and durability and flexibility, but it brings the team together before you get to spring practice. And of course, last year, a lot of the kids that we signed in the transfer portal didn't even show up until a couple weeks before the season started in August. So at least we're over that hurdle this year. Yeah. I think about 95% of the transfer portal guys are already there. I've been following social media on who's winning the weekly lifting warrior championship, and some good stuff going on right now behind the scenes.
Yeah, what you're saying, of course, you've been through it, experience, and know how important those winter conditioning sessions are. And then what it does, I think, even though it's not called the spring game anymore, leading into the spring practice and the spring celebration, that last public event is really, really important. What we might do now, Nick, and we can bring in Mike with us too. Darren, if you could put up graphic number 1, which is the roster numbers, and let's talk about this. This is fascinating, actually, when we look at, because we've got holdovers from last year. I shouldn't say holdovers, but guys who still have eligibility from last year. We've got those who left and left to go into the portal. We've got the early signees for coming out of high school, and then we've got the portal guys. And you will see that we're still faced with the same issue that we had last year, and that is we still have many more guys in the fold than the NCAA allows in terms of scholarship. We're at about 118 right now, and that doesn't include any of the guys that went into the portal who aren't signed by others.
Right.
That just includes the guys that have remaining eligibility.
NCAA regulations, you can only have 105.
Yeah,
So they'll still have
yeah.
some cutting down to do.
There it is,
There we
right
go.
there. And let's bring Mike in on this too. One of the things that's interesting, and we haven't talked about it a lot, Mike, is how many players still have eligibility who didn't go into the portal. I looked at the two deep today, Mike and Mick, and I didn't, again, it's very early. I didn't see many names in the proposed or at least speculated two deep players who were there last year. It's mostly the guys coming in on the portal, but at the same time, it includes some players that are expected to play as a freshman. So, Mike, what's your make in terms of really putting Humpty Dumpty back on the wall?
I mean, going back to your conversation earlier, the good news is they got as many guys there in the winter program, because you really do build your teams in the off season, and that's the beginning part of the season. Trying to build them in the summertime, that's a pretty difficult task. So usually build them in the winter, and then you go into a spring game and the spring ball type of situation, and then you can move about. They've obviously got a lot of guys, and that's cool because you need a lot of bodies right now. But we got to get bodies that need to be able to be trained and elevated, and they're winning in that department right now. But that's an easy department to kind of win right this second in time, because we needed to. So I'm imagining they're doing what they need to do, get the bodies that can do something, and definitely got a lot of guys. So
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, Mick, you and I and Greg have talked about this forever. The numbers this year are good in terms of the quality of these players. At the end of the day, the Mountaineers were just outside of the top 20, both in terms of the ratings of the players brought in the early signing period in December from high school, and also just outside of the top 20 in terms of the portal gets. So to be, in a lot of schools, think back to Colorado a couple of years ago, when Coach Prime was hitting the portal hard, but not high school at all, really, not at all. But for West Virginia to be basically to be 21st, I think, in both. We'll look at the numbers here in a second, both in the high school recruiting and portal gets when you're competing against a lot of other teams. So, Darren, if you could bring up slide number 2, that'll give us a chance to look at these are the recruiting that came in terms of the early season. And, we've talked about it, Mike. Nobody's going to be able to compete against Texas Tech because of the money. So they're number one.
Well, I mean,
Big Ten. Yeah, go ahead.
I hear you, but that will ultimately become a problem. But that's one that I guess we can't do nothing about right now. So
yeah. But West Virginia had the most recruits in the country the last time we looked, with 49. I think it's.
Oh no, it's
impressive.
it's impressive.
Yeah,
It's impressive. We got to take every impressive inch that we can get,
yeah.
and keep moving forward with it, because that's how we got to build this situation. Then that's how we build this team. So
Yeah.
those are our options.
That's right. Well, and the other thing that I think is interesting, Mick, when you look at those teams there, Tech, BYU, Arizona State, Utah, those have been the top teams in the Big 12, and we'll look later at what's projected for this year. But Texas Tech's on that list, BYU's on that list, Utah's on that list. So you hope when you're basically building for the future with the guys you're bringing in. That's obvious. Sometimes it doesn't work, but it really positions WVU in a very, very good situation.
Certainly does. I mean, this is probably the first time that I've seen West Virginia on that list with those other teams, isn't it, Frank?
Yeah, I mean,
first time they've shown up there amongst the top contenders. So I mean, and weren't we second in the Big 12 in terms of rankings on the
Go
on the
back. If you
on
can
the
go back to the
Gets.
slide. Yeah, let's go back to the slide.
I think it was
Darren, number
second behind
2.
Texas Tech, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, number
we
2.
were. Yep,
21st
and 20.
nationally, second in the
Yep,
Big 12.
you know that is that's very positive, and you got to give it to Coach Rodriguez and the staff. And in terms of some of the guys we should be looking for, if you could put up the third visual there, hopefully these names are going to become household names. Well, Mick, everybody's talking about Mike. Everybody's talking about Kevin Brown, who flipped
Yep.
from Penn State to West Virginia. But what's neat about that is those. I'll just say one thing and then turn to you guys for your thoughts. These guys all fit needs. You got an offensive lineman, you've got a tackle, you've got a safety, you've got a guy that looks to be the first, probably number 2 running back, Latimer, and then you have Henson, a defensive lineman, and then you have a wide receiver. And these are all guys that are rating just, no one's below 89 point, whatever that, I can't see that number there. But the point is they're just about 90 or above, which, the scale goes to 100. But your thoughts, Mick, and then Mike, about any of these guys, or generally your feeling about the quality of these recruits.
Well, I'm pleased personally to see the 2 fellows that we got out of the SEC. Because when you're starting to get players from the Southeastern Conference, you're talking real speed. I mean, some real speed. So looking forward to that. And, got to be quick out there in addition to the size. Kevin Brown, I think, is going to be just really, really impressive player. It was great to see that in that weightlifting warrior contest in week 1, he won it as a freshman. So,
Wow.
I mean, he's coming to play. No question about that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'll tell you, as a both of you guys, former linemen, Mike, that must warm your heart.
You got to have big guys that could move and make some action in the trenches, or nothing's gonna happen anywhere. So, I mean, it's just that simple. So,
No, it's true. I mean, the best example is Indiana. When you looked at that offensive line, we've talked about that on the show.
yeah.
Everybody talked about the quarterback, but the quarterback's not going to do
Well,
what he did without that line.
Well, I mean, not to get ahead of us, but I mean, there's a heck of a blueprint to look after. You know what I'm saying? So for them to be able to pull Indiana out of wherever they pulled them out of and then put them on the field like that, I mean, that coaching staff did an outstanding job. So I mean, there's no sense in trying to reduplicate anything, because we live in a copycat league, and we always have lived in a copycat league. So I mean, there's some things from there that we should probably take and try to utilize. As far as, I don't know what all their budgets was over there, but I don't know any of the other parts of it. But they definitely had a heck of a team, and they had a heck of a coaching staff. So
there's a number of things. Here's a factoid that I didn't realize, and I was sort of shocked when I looked at it. I looked at the year before Cignetti got there, and Tom Allen was the coach. He was the coach for a number of years, and they had a bad season, I think 3-9, but they started to get much better toward the end of the season. They lost 3 of their last 4. They beat Wisconsin, but the 3 games they lost total of 10 points, so average of 3 points a game. And they did it because they had one reason is they had a hell of a quarterback. And I looked, their quarterback was Brendan Sorsby. Well, Sorsby left when Cignetti came in. He goes to Cincinnati, turned Cincinnati, one of the big reasons Cincinnati got turned around. And now he got one of the biggest nil contracts. He's going to be the starting quarterback for Texas Tech this year. And so, a number of things lined up, I think, for IU. Cignetti was a big part of it, bringing all those players from James Madison. But the fact of the matter is, I think, like happens so often, you can see the beginning, maybe a little bit before most people say, well, it happened, as soon as Cignetti got there. But when you look at the last couple of games the year before, not bad. Let's take a look at the portal. Go to the next one, number 4 there. And here's the offense. and you can see we brought in 34 guys into the portal. 44 left. And so if you look at the offense there, that's very interesting. And I'll turn to Mick on this. It's going to be really interesting. I was looking at some beat writers' comments today. This Michael Hawkins, you talked about the SEC, the transfer from Oklahoma. We all love Scotty Fox. But boy, I wouldn't bet against Michael Hawkins when the smoke clears being the starting quarterback next year.
Very well. I think they clocked him in the 40 at 4.2 or 4.3,
Wow.
which is extremely fast. So he's going to bring not only the passing threat, but the running threat as well. And, having played against SEC competition, he'll come prepared, ready to play as well. So some real impressive gets there in the portal.
Wow,
The one question, before we leave this point, Frank, I'm just curious, the kids that we had that went into the portal, like Nico Markale, for example, that nobody picked up, isn't there like 33 of those guys still out there that nobody picked up? Is that the number, somewhere in the 30s? And
at the bottom of the chart, I think, I didn't look today, it was yesterday, there were 22 Mountaineers went into the portal and haven't been picked up. I think 9 have been picked up by Power 4 schools. And so half of the players that went into the portal, in some cases months ago, are still looking for a team to hook up with. And this goes, I'm glad you brought it up, because it goes back to the point we talked about last week that I think bears to be brought up again this week. There's not going to be a lot of room, just to speak of the players who didn't go into the portal, in terms of those players in the portal who may seek, can they come back? That's going to have to be worked out. Another offensive player that is going to see a lot of playing time, who I think was the leading rusher in the country, is that running back Cam Cook from Jackson State. And the other thing I think, Mike, is really important, this Caden Luke from Arizona is a true fullback. And you saw it toward the end of the season last year. West Virginia was using big men in goal line situations. And I think we're going to see a lot of Caden Luke in that particular situation, where we get close to the goal line and need a big body. Go ahead.
Nothing like getting a big body to help hammer it in there. So
and go ahead.
And if he's obviously going to be talented enough to do the other things too. Hopefully he can catch the ball and run the ball as well. So.
And they got good linemen there too. I mean, if we can go back to that chart again, Darren, already, I don't know if you've been reading about him, Mick, or not, but this Devin Vass, the transfer on the O-line from K-State, and also this Karsten Cassidy, as well as Cameron Griffin from Jack State, that offensive line looks to be a lot stronger than it was. Also getting a lot of you got DJ Epps, got a lot of press at Troy. Tayron Francis, another SEC guy, which I'm glad you brought that up, because we haven't seen a lot of that. Getting guys out of the South, getting guys that either were at or otherwise would be at an SEC school. And so if you look at this offense now, what's interesting is, if you look at 34 at the top, only 14 on the offensive side. So obviously they were very selective, and they should be on the offensive side, but they 6 more players, and we'll look at that in a second, on the defensive side. But any final thoughts, guys, about what you're seeing in that chart?
I mean, for the most part, I mean, that's a good start. Just every program needs to be able to receive a player and then elevate that player to a higher playing status. So hopefully these guys can rise to the occasion, and that our coaches that are there can help, raise their play, because that's what it's all about. So that's You got to have the ingredients to bake the cake, right? So.
That's right.
That's a great point, Mike. Back to your earlier point about Cignetti's success at Indiana. You know, Cignetti did that. He didn't have a single 4 or 5-star athlete on that team.
See, it can be done.
3 stars were the best, and that's the same approach that I know Rich Rod likes to take, where you get the 3-star player in and you coach them up. You do a developmental coaching job. So instead of just you bring in who you can from the portal to give you immediate impact, but for the long-term success, if we can get these kids to stay once they get them coached up, I think it's a much better approach for the whole program. You know, you get a kid for 2-3 years maybe instead of just 1 year in and out.
Yeah, no, and just to reinforce that, when I looked at it, we don't have a chart on this, but last year when we looked at the players that they brought in, you saw a lot of guys in their last year. They had 1 year of eligibility, and you would expect that given the circumstances. Not this year. You had a number of people who have 1 year left, but you got a ton of folks who have more than 1 year of eligibility, which that enables that coaching up. Darren, if we could bring in the defense, you're going to see, I think, the same pattern on the defense. A lot of really good guys here, and also very competitive nationally, and also very competitive with the Big 12. And so you look at that D line. Now it's interesting. You've got 20 players here, and look at that: 5 on the defense on the D line, 4 linebackers, and 8 D-backs. Well,
defensive backs.
Yeah, come on. You know this. That's been a weakness, an issue, a concern. This Kamari Wilson from Memphis is getting stellar reviews. Jameer Latimer, his brother's on the team. He came from Wisconsin. Jameer did. He's a cornerback. Hawkins is getting really good reviews, as is Padrell. So when you look at this defense, Ofogo, I hope I pronounced that right, from Bowling Green had big numbers. Same with Durham Campbell at Coastal. Toby Hastrop is highly thought of. I don't want to point out certain players and not others, but Mike, again, is someone who understands the importance of that forward wall with a strong D line and linebackers who can both handle the run and also in mid-range handle the pass. Plus, one of the things that the staff did this year was really go after edge guys. And that's really important. Those edge guys are so critical. We saw time and time last year, the quarterbacks just had too much time to throw.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a throw league. We live in a pass-happy league, and you better have some D-backs that can play some real man and keep the ball away from them catching it. So
yeah,
it's pretty simple, but you got to have guys that can do it.
Yeah.
But you have to have guys that can teach it too. So I'm not saying we don't, but we got to be able to teach it. We got to elevate the players with the coaching staff, and because they're a 4 or 5 or 3-star or whatever star they want to be, they got to keep going. This is just the beginning part of their life.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
There's a lot of competition out there. So
that's right.
Everybody's sitting back in their castles figuring out how they're going to, execute next season. They looked at what Cignetti did and be like, wow, there's a blueprint to go look at. So I mean that's a lot. I was pulling for him. That's a big deal. So
yeah,
it can be done. So
Amen. Mick, your thoughts?
Well, just the one other player on there we picked up on special teams, that Nataro kid from Alabama, the punter. I think that's going to be a great addition for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was a surprise that you and I've talked about that with Greg. They had to remake really those special teams. And again, I'm as a former administrator, manager, you're looking at it may be football, but you're looking at the mindset, what they're doing as they put the pieces on the chessboard. And one of the things that we know we have to improve on is that we've got to put on kickoffs, we've got to put that ball into the end zone. Too many times we didn't do that, and it got better toward the end of the season, but that player left.
Bottom line, absolutely. Special teams is 1/3 of your output. So most of those games are determined by field position and 3 points or less if it's a good game. So you obviously, want to, keep them as far back as you can, and you obviously want to be able to make your field goals and extra points, because if you don't, you run a high chance of losing a close game, like
that's right,
big time. So
no, you're absolutely correct. Well, let's look at some of the players. Put up the next one, Darren. As we did, we looked at some of the highest rated kids coming out of high school, and here are some of the top 3 rated guys coming out of the portal. And Cam Cook, we already talked about him, the running back from Jackson State. Mentioned Devin Dass, the offensive guard. He's to the upper right, Kansas State. And I mentioned Kamari Wilson too. And again, if you think about it, those are 3 positions. Last year it was painful. The question was, well, who's going to be the running back this week after Jaheim White got hurt? They've got really good running backs. They had good running backs, but we were injured a lot last year. But those are only 3 of the guys. But again, impressive.
Good running backs are only good when you have a good offensive line. So it doesn't, right. For the most part, if they can't make a hole, the guy, I don't care how good he is, he's not going anywhere fast. And more than likely, some of those people got hurt because we couldn't make holes and knock people off the ball the way we needed to. So It goes both ways, but, not giving anybody any excuses or nothing, but it's, running backs need holes if you're going to let them run the ball.
Well, and it's Mick, your thoughts with Coach Trickett coming from Jack State. Guys like Devin Dass they're going to be coached up, no question.
No doubt about it. I think it's a major improvement, and I think I mentioned a couple of shows ago, I think getting Coach Trickett in there coaching the offensive line is going to be worth at least 1 additional win for the program. He is really an excellent
probably more than that, but I hope so.
Yeah.
We'll, it's amazing.
Let him work his magic with those guys.
Yeah, we had him on about 6 months ago, and it was very interesting. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, but you could see how the mind works, and he's been at it for a long time. So a quick one we'll look at, Darren. The next one. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
I tell you what, offensive line coaches, good ones, like Trickett's a very good coach. So I expect him to, cover every detail, because every square inch or every movement to the left or to the right that an offensive lineman makes, whether it's a run or it's a pass, every quarter inch matters. And that's how detailed you got to coach that position, because when they snap the ball, man, everything gets crazy out there. But if their feet are in position and their hands are in position and everything's in position, they'll have success. And if they got somebody like him coaching, maybe they're going to push them over the edge. So that's a good thing. So, but every movement matters. I mean, the same goes on defense, but we're just talking about offense right now. But it's a quarter of an inch at a time, really. So if you go one way or the other, you can be way out of alignment. So running backs only need 6 inches. They're through the roof.
That's right. Absolutely. Just if we quickly could put up the next one, we won't go into great detail, but one of the things that we've been really thirsting for is depth. And we thank Keenan for this. And this is a preview of the linebacker room. If you go on WV Sports and you look at January 28th, Keenan's, who's been on the show a couple times, his article is there. Certainly we had some key losses. Those names are important. Obviously, Reed Carrico came from Ohio State. Chase Wilson came in, I think, from Colorado State, if I remember correctly. Ben Bogle, unfortunately, we lost him to the portal. But, we got 2 guys coming back, Cutter and Woods. And then you can see between the high school and portal, we brought 11 linebackers in. Now, how that's all going to shake out, what I'm reading already is that obviously the early sort of the early line is to the portal gets, and Tyler Stolsky's name comes up and a Fogho too, as well as Harper Holloman and as a bandit along with David. But we're beginning to see some depth here. So you got 13 guys who are going to be at least 13 guys in that linebacker room, because those key returnees don't include all the returnees. But Mickey, that gives me hope.
Plus, the ones that are borderline, they can potentially participate in special teams. You know what I'm saying? The other third that needs to, get over the hump. Just saying.
Mickey, your thoughts?
Well, a lot of change there at the linebacking position, no doubt about it. It's going to, I think, a large part of our success on defense. I feel more comfortable with the changes that we've made in the defensive secondary than I am with the risk that we're facing in some untested, untried linebackers at the LB position. So I think that's going to be a real question mark to our defensive success this year, probably more so than the defensive secondary or the defensive line. But
Yeah.
hopefully those guys will step right in and get coached up and do their jobs.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
I think
do your job. That's what they say, right, Mike?
Well, one last is, how does this all look in terms of the schedule? And so if you could put the last visual up there in terms of what people are saying. Now, these are early predictions, and what they're saying for the most part, and this comes from a USA Today article, is that Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, and Houston are considered to be the front runners. Arizona State's not there, surprisingly. Kansas State had trouble at the end of the season. They're not there either. But you got Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, and Houston. And the interesting thing about this, and we talked about this earlier this week with Mickey and Greg, if you look at our schedule, while we don't play BYU, I mean, they got a ton of people coming back. Birchmeyer at quarterback. They got the running back coming back. They had success in the portal, but we don't play BYU. We play Texas Tech, we play Utah, and we play Houston. But what's interesting about this, Mick, and we talked about this, as I said the other day, they all come late. These are late games. They're all November games, 2 on the road, 1 at home, which means that, again, trying to predict the future, you know what it's like, it's tough. But the point is that it'd be much more difficult if these were early season games. You have a chance to get a running start. Not that the other teams can be taken lightly, because they can't. But I think there's something to be said about the teams that are considered the front runners. You don't have to face until later. Now, the downside is you're playing in a cluster situation at the end of the season. But I don't know, when you played, would you rather have it that way or play these tougher teams early?
Well, a lot depends on the schedule, like you're just pointing out, and if you got the big fight at the end, then it gives you hopefully enough time to get better to get there, because that's a heck of a gauntlet, one way or the other, any way you want to cut it. So, I mean, from a TV perspective, obviously, it's at the end of the year where people, things are getting narrowed down, and it, creates even more excitement and so on and so forth, which creates more viewers. But, you definitely want to be able to be ready for the challenge. And, if that's where they're at the end, then, you got a beginning that you got to have a strong beginning too. If, your first couple games aren't put together well, especially good games against, competitive opponents, then, you'll know what you'll have to do. But being this year, it seems like we have a lot more time with our players with an off season that's going on, and you know, a lot of extra, you know, Jimmys and Joes there to fulfill the football program in a better way. So I mean, take them in the end. If that's where they're at, that's where you got to take them. Can't rearrange the schedule today.
That's right.
But
Mickey, your thoughts?
But in the old days, if they were the first one on your schedule, and that's happened before too, and at least in the old days, you know, when they used to do those kickoff classics, and you know, you'd have to open up with Oklahoma or something like that. Remember those days? You know, then that you better get an edge on early in the winter, and then the spring game or spring practice.
Yeah,
That's how I see it.
Mick?
Yeah, I agree with Mike. You know, two thoughts on this. Number one, I think the makeup of your schedule has a big impact on the team morale. If you get off to a relatively easier start, I mean, we're playing UT. Who's it? UT Chattanooga,
Coastal Carolina.
UT Martin, and yeah. Although Coastal Carolina always been competitive. And then we got that have a real test with Virginia coming up in the third game of the year down in Charlotte. But if you're asking me for my druthers, I'd rather have it this way. If you are going to be in a heavyweight championship bout, I want to have several preliminary bouts against lesser known, less qualified contenders before I work my way up to taking on that heavyweight for the heavyweight championship. So I like the schedule the way it's laid out this year.
Yeah, because we're still
development.
Yeah.
With 49 kids coming in from high school. Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, we're still in the developmental stage. I mean, for real. So it's like, you know, take every advantage point you can get, just like what you're saying, and that the schedule is the schedule. So that I'm with you on all that, and definitely build up to it. But I mean, you got to build up to it, and you got to win games. So I mean, that's the other part. So
yeah. The other thing is that we're going to have some teams that have been high flying, but they've lost their coaches. A new coach at Kansas State, new coach at Iowa State, new coach at Utah. I mean, these are all new coaches, and you know, it's you know, you have no control except on your schedule, except the quote unquote preseason games, so to speak, or the pre-league games. But the way that the league lays it out, we have more. I think this is a year that we have 5 home games, 4 games on the road. So you don't have any control over that because that alternates. The bottom line is, I agree with both of you guys. This is a very, first of all, you have to play the teams that are on your schedule, period. But this is, I think this is a schedule, given where WVU is at, that I think is good. This is a good schedule for WVU. And you're right, Mick, don't ever take Coastal Carolina. Like Georgia Southern, don't take teams like that. I mean, they've beaten some big teams. Look at what happened with us at Ohio. But at the same time, we're playing Coastal Carolina at home. It's early in the season, playing UT Martin at home. Virginia, as you're right, is going to be a tough go because they found their sea legs in football after a number of years. But thanks, guys, for helping us go through that, because I think what it does, I was really excited to look at this because we couldn't have done this last year. It just was not possible to do what we did tonight because of the fluid nature. It's still fluid, but you can see the experienced hand that Rodriguez is taking to shaping this group. And as Cliff Hill said a couple of weeks ago, who does a great job helping high school players find out where their best fit is with a nil to boot. He said, you know, the second year is going to be an improvement. He predicts. He said the third year he thinks is going to be the thing to really look at. And so I think what Mike said, you know, it's probably hyperbolic to say, well, let's look at the IU pattern platform and then replicate it. But without going off the rails and talk about WVU as national champion in 3 years. There are some similarities in terms of how IU was built and what Rodriguez is doing. So that's a good thing.
The good news is it can be done, and it just has to be done in the way that we can do it. So
yeah, that's right. No, that's right. Hopeful is the word. Mike, thank you so much. Mickey, your final thoughts.
This was a great discussion tonight. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your input here.
Mick, always great working with you. Great contribution. And again, we'll see Greg next week with us. And so for all of you, and with Darren and our good friend Mark Parsons, who does such a great job lining up guests for us, we appreciate everybody watching tonight. We enjoyed the show. Hope you did too. And we look forward to being with you next Wednesday night. Take care, everyone.